Alright, so good day class. As promised, itutuloy ko yung discussion ko pero this time video recorded na lang siya. Please excuse me for now kasi hindi ko ma-open yung camera ko. I'm not sure why. And then please also excuse me if you can hear some background noises. Nasa office lang ako, katabi ko kasi yung um, yung parang AVR ng Gabaldon kung saan nag-orientation ngayon ang mga taga CTE. Okay? So, I believe we ended dito sa part ng section 3. So, this is where I stopped yesterday because I would want to actually continue this in a more in-depth discussion para mas maintindihan ninyo siya. Okay? So we proceed now with section 3, and this is where I would want now to expound my discussion regarding politics and administration dichotomy. Please wag kayong malilito if I am discussing politics and administration dichotomy. If PA 116 ito, sir. This is Public Policy and Program Administration. Hindi po ba pareho ito sa PA 118 which is Politics and Administration? Ah, in its essence, may pagkakapareho sila, particularly sa lesson na ito kasi nga matatouch at matatouch pa rin natin yung tungkol sa politika at the same time yung tungkol sa administration. Pero hindi kasi ito yung focus ng lesson natin or ng course natin. This is just one of the topics. Ang talagang focus ng politics and administration would be PA 118. Okay? So, having said this, let's proceed now to section 3. Okay? So as you can see now here, it says that can politics and administration really be separated? Mapagsina tayo nga ta, mapaghihiwalay po ba natin ang politics and administration? Well, in its essence, may differences sila pero umpisahan ko na sa part na hindi po natin sila pwedeng paghiwalayin because these are two interrelated but different concepts. Okay? So there is a classical debate that has occupied public administration as a discipline for over a century now. And in fact, hanggang ngayon ay pinagdedebatihan pa natin sila. The very question was, can politics and administration actually be separated? Na malinis, yung talagang as in kitang-kita natin yung distinction or yung separation ng dalawa. Okay? So, but we will not answer that question in this slide per se. But I would just want you to hold on to that question because later on, we will try to unveil and uncover this as we go through with the other slides I will be presenting. Okay, so let's move forward. So, according to Woodrow Wilson in 1887, he said that the field of administration is a field of business, removed from the hurry and strife of politics. Ano pong ibig sabihin po niyan? Okay? Because these are a bit difficult to understand. The field of administration is a field of business, removed from the hurry and strife of politics. Ito ay galing kay Woodrow Wilson which is said to be the father of administration. And I need you to set aside anything you already associate with the name. No? Noong 1887, sinulat ito ni Woodrow Wilson pero hindi pa siya presidente at that time. Okay? Hindi pa siya presidente at that time ng United States. Mga decades after pa, bago siya naging presidente. I think that was in 1913. So, noong 1887, ang konteksto kasi dyan is political science professor pa lang siya. Okay? And nagpapublish siya ng maraming mga essays. Now, he was writing during the time when an era ng government hires, no? Uh, the government hires uh, people out of patronage. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Ito yung mga panahon na parang sikat yung compadre system or padrino system. palakasan system. Kung sino yung kaalyado or kaalyansa ng pamahalaan, sila yung iha-hire. Kaya sabi dito, the administration is a field of business. Ginawang negosyo ang pamahalaan. At ano ang currency? Ano yung currency? It's not dollars, it's not peso, but it's loyalty. The more loyal you are, the higher the position you get. That is what Woodrow Wilson said in 1887 when he was still a professor. Nagsinabi niya ang administration ay isang field of business. It was dominated by patronage, palakasan system, political loyalty, at hindi competence. Kung mas matalino ka at radikal ka, tinutuligsa mo ang pamahalaan, expect mo wala kang posisyon. Pero kung ikaw ay kiss-ass, ikaw ay sip-sip, ikaw ay loyal sa pamahalaan, then the government will definitely give you a job. No, Wilson's claim was much as a proposal of how government should work as it was a description of how it already worked. Para sa kanya, administration, no? This is his argument, this is his debate. Administration should be treated as a distinct professional field insulated from the shifting winds of political conflict. In other words, dapat hiwalay ang politika at hiwalay ang administration because we cannot actually work and we cannot achieve a government that is competent if it is driven by patronage. Now, that single essay is now nearly regarded as the founding document of the entire discipline you are studying in this program. Kaya nasabi natin that Woodrow Wilson, even if he is a young political scientist at that time and he is a professor of political science, was regarded as the father of administration because his idea is that, okay, administration should be treated as distinct, hiwalay na field at dapat hindi po siya nahahaluan ng politika. That was his claim, no? Okay? So, pupunta naman tayo doon sa POV ni Goodnow, si Frank Goodnow. So Woodrow Wilson said that in 1887 that administration is actually a field of business. Tignan naman natin sa kung anong sinabi ni Goodnow sa 1900s, no? When Wilson wrote his essay in 1887, it became the founding intuition. Ibig sabihin, ito yung parang pinakaunang formal document na nagsasaad na kung ano nga ba ang tunay na ang tunay na ideology ng ang tunay na ideology ng administration. However, it was actually during the time of Frank Goodnow in 1900 who gave the intuition its cleanest formal vocabulary. Magulo pa kasi, naggulo pa gamin 1887 dayjay kinuna ni Wilson. However, it was actually Frank Goodnow who tried to clarify and lay out a formal, cleaner vocabulary of administration. In Goodnow's version, it was more of precise, no? Mas malinis siya na mas madaling i-memorize. According to him, politics is the expression of state will, while administration is the execution of that will. So, dito na natin makikita yung parang demarcation ng politics at administration. We try to notice what the formulation provided by Goodnow, no? Sineseparate na niya yung decision-making function ng government doon sa execution or doon sa action. So you can see now here, sayang nga kasi this is a video recorded lecture, I cannot get your or I cannot interact with you, but I do hope that while you are following this video recorded lecture, you can now see the distinction between the two. Ulitin ko lang ha, uh, um, si Wilson said that the field of administration is a field of business. This was carried out because of the idea at that time when he was still a young professor, bago pa siya naging Pangulo ng Amerika, is um, medyo spoiled na yung system kasi nga very patronage siya. However, nilinaw ni Goodnow during that time that politics is more of the expression of the state will, while administration is the execution of that will. In short, decision-making function ang politics, while the government for doing the action is already the administration. Okay? Malinaw yan ha? Politics decides what should happen. Anya kadi iti mapasamak. Dayta iti sungsungbatan iti politics. Again, politics in this context is not about attacking the person just because it is not aligned with your political perspectives. Hindi dahil maka-DDS ka, hindi dahil maka-BBM ka, hindi dahil maka-Lenny ka. That's not politics in this context. Politics is more of making the decision in the government. Yung decision naman na nagawa ng politics ay kailangang i-put into action at yaan ang administration. So sana malinaw na, okay, that this is actually a formula kaya hindi mo sila pwedeng paghiwalayin. Will, then execution. This is what most people refer to now as politics administration dichotomy. Sir Ken, anya ngay dayta nga dichotomy. What is dichotomy muna kasi? Okay, let's spell muna kasi wala natin sa PowerPoint ko. Dichotomy means it's a division of a whole into parts that are both contradictory and mutually exclusive. Agdumada, they are different per se, but they cannot be separated as if they are twins. Okay? Oh, isipin natin, ito yung structure natin. Yung bahay ay government. May dalawang kwarto sa loob ng bahay, si politics at si administration. Si politics ang gumagawa ng desisyon sa bahay. Administration siya yung kumikilos para gawin yung desisyon na yon. So, they are different rooms. They are different rooms, magkaiba sila, pero nasa iisang bubong sila. And that what completes now government. I hope that's clear. Okay? Alright. Sige. Para mas maging malinaw pa, i-expand pa natin sila. There are two different worlds. Politics and administration. Okay. So dito, ang basehan po natin ay yung kay Wilson at yung kay Goodnow. Okay? So, tinable ko na siya para mas madali po nating intindihin. So, isa-isahin natin. Sa parte ng politics, this is where policy making and goal setting is carried out. Nino, your elected officials, particularly those who are expected to create the law. And these should be responsive to what? To the needs of the people. Okay. And mahalaga ito because, bakit? Mahalaga ito because this should be value-laden and conflict-prone. Ano pong ibig sabihin ng value-laden and conflict-prone? Okay? When you say value-laden, sige nga, I'm waiting for you to type in your answers sa ating comment section. Meron tayong interaction kahit papano. When you say value-laden, it describes words, concepts, or decisions that are deeply influenced by personal opinions, moral judgments, or cultural biases rather than being purely objective. Kapag sinabi mo ang isang tao ay value-laden, mas nangingibabaw para sa kanya yung pansariling interest niya o yung personal na pagkakaintindi niya sa isang bagay. At nangyayari iyan sa Kongreso. For example, ipinapasa ang RH law, ang RH bill. Bakit siya naging controversial? Kasi may mga kongresista, may mga senador at may mga congressman na hindi payag because of their religion. Naniniwala sila na life is sacred. Bakit mo papatayin ang isang sanggol? Bakit ka magkokondom? Ang bata ay gawa or blessing ng Panginoon. Doon nagkakaroon ng conflict. Samantalang yung mga pro-choice naman, it's between pro-life and pro-choice kasi. Pro-life, sila yung naniniwala that babies are sacred, that this is a blessing from above. Ngam, tikunaman ni pro-choice is hindi dapat, di ba? Dapat hindi tayo maging factory ng mga babies. 'Di ba? Another example, death penalty, capital punishment, corporal punishment. Marami ang payag, marami ang hindi. Because these senators, these congressmen, men are value-laden. Nangingibabaw yung pansarili at personal nilang paniniwala. And because of that, nagiging war zone ang Kongreso, ang plenaryo. Nagkakaroon ng conflict. Once a controversial issue has been laid on the table and it begins to be discussed, nagkakaroon tayo ng conflict prone area. Hindi naman sana aabot sa we are under attack ni Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, but 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 of course, no, we have to understand that when senators are actually concentrated with value-laden perspectives, hindi tayo makakaiwas na maging conflict-prone ang plenaryo. Okay? So I hope malinaw itong politics side, no? Pumunta naman tayo sa part ng administration. Okay. So sa administration side, the implement and execute whatever decision na gagawin ng politics side. Okay? So uh, they are carried out by whom? Appointed bureaucrats. Okay? So kung kanina ang burden or responsibility of making the policy and to set the goal ay mga elected officials na ibinoto natin sa pamamagitan ng eleksyon. Dito naman po sa wala kasing pointer dito para sana ano po. Anyway, dito naman sa administration, ang nagke-carry out or nag-e-execute or gumagawa ng mga implementation at execution ay yung tinatawag nating mga appointed bureaucrats. Sino yung mga yon? Katulad namin na mga appointed, no? May appointment from civil service. And kanino kami nagre-respond? Sa mga batas at sa mga direktiba na inihulog sa pamamagitan ng mga batas. So kami ay dapat neutral. Kailangan naming i-implement ang isang batas. For example, okay? Nabalitaan ninyo yung namatay na grade 4 pupil na matapos siyang allegedly mapurgahan. Okay. Kami for example sa DOH, hindi namin pwedeng itigil dahil sa isang case, okay? Kasi nga nagkalat ang fake news. So neutral kami sa part na yun. Hindi namin pwedeng sabihin na, ay proyekto ito ni BBM, hindi ako maka-BBM 'di ba? Trabaho ang nakasalalay dito. Okay? And dito, ang example ay DSWD running the 4Ps. Kaya makikita ninyo class, hindi po pwedeng ang Kongreso ang magpadala or sorry, mag-distribute ng 4Ps kasi hindi nila trabaho 'yan. Ang trabaho dapat nito ay sa execution part ng mga taga DSWD. I hope malinaw po ang ating example dito. Okay. Now, para mas maintindihan pa ninyo, magbibigay ako ng dalawang cases sa inyo. Di cases ng beer, ah. Okay. So, i-apply natin yung framework ni na Goodnow at saka ni Wilson dito. Okay. Case A, the Congress and the Executive decided that the four-piece program should exist. Yung decision na yan ay tinatawag nating politics. Okay? Now here comes DSWD field staff verifying now beneficiaries and they release cash grants. Yan naman po ay administration. So I hope malinaw ha, gumawa ng batas ang Kongreso na magpamudmud ng pera sa pamamagitan ng conditional cash grant at transfer, ang tinawag itong 4Ps, politics yan. Kapag naman po ito ay sinabing distribution na, yung actual distribution already of the cash grant through the DSWD sa kanilang field staff, administration yan. So I hope malinaw niya dyan sa part na yan. Okay. Let's proceed with case B. Deciding which transport routes get LTFRB franchises is political because it involves competing interests among operators, commuters, and local officials and typically requires public hearings. But registering vehicles and enforcing traffic rules through the LTO is administrative. Why? Because it is routinary, procedural, and technical. Medyo mas complicated kasi itong case B. Kasi dito, hindi naman gumagawa ng batas ang LTFRB per se, katulad ng sa Kongreso. Pero may kakayahan silang mag-regulate sa pamamagitan ng kanilang implementing rules and regulation. Dito, sila ang may kapangyarihan na mag-decide kung saang ruta bibiyahe ang isang jeep, ang isang tricycle. That power is political because they can regulate the competing interests. Ang dami ng tricycle, hindi lahat pwedeng iisa ang ruta nila. Kailangan gudwa-gudwa unta, tapno ma-distribute. Kasi kakaasi ti tricycle drivers, no, kas pangarigan, may salaang ti ruta da. 'Di ba? For example kuma Manibod View aging gana jay ayan ti kaadaywan nga barangay iti Tagudin ti tricycle narigat. So dapat adda ti kanya-kanya nga ruta da. Okay? So, my question here is, alin sa dalawang case ang mas familiar sa inyo? And if so, may local version ba ito? O yan, sagutin nyo na lang habang iniintindi nyo yung discussion ko kasi wala nga tayong interaction dahil video recorded nga lang ito. Okay? So we proceed now with the three cracks in the dichotomy. What does it mean pag sinabing three cracks in the dichotomy? This is where I want to make our lesson more realistic and more relatable now today. Okay? Kasi yung pinag-uusapan natin, 1897, 1900s, malayong hindi pa tayo pinanganak dyan. So this time, let's slow down. Bagalan lang natin ng konti and let's crack each other's case. No? First, sabi dito, administrators exercise real discretion. Anong ibig sabihin yan? For example, a health worker deciding who gets prioritized for a limited supply of medicine is not simply executing a rule mechanically. Ibig sabihin, hindi robot, hindi AI ang isang health worker. Adda kanyanan nga agdesisyon whether or not to prioritize a senior citizen, a buntis, a PWD, or a regular patient. They are not making a judgment call with real distributive consequences, no? Even though their job is simply to administer and not to politicize. So kahit papano ay may decision-making power pa din ang mga health workers. Ni, sir, kat ko na matatay nga ti decision making, kan policy making, kan ayan ti politics. Exactly. Yan nga yung crack. Yan nga yung loophole. Kaya ang hirap ipaghiwalay ng politics and administration because of this. Again, politics is actually more of a conflict building. Adda iti problema ijay iso adda iti politika. Ono kas pangarigan si kagarod. You are the health worker. Sino nga ron ang uunahin mo niyan? Oh, 'di ba? Si kamat laeng iti ag-decide. So uray no si kaket administrator. You are executing and implementing the policies passed by the politicians. Hindi mo pwedeng i-separate ang politika dito because you are still making the call. Sino ang uunahin? Sino ang ipaprioritize? You are making a judgment call with real distributive consequences. Kung babalikan natin yung discussion ko last time, no, during our politics has a distributive effect. In short, at the iti maikan, at the iti maawanan. In this case, if you are a health worker, sino ang uunahin mong bigyan? Of course, definitely, yung may pinakamalalang sakit, yung may emergency case already. Pero sino ang nawalan? Yung other na pasyente. So still, even if you are considered as an administrator, even if your job title says administration because you are a health worker, you are still making a judgment call. You are still doing your job in the political side. I hope malinaw yun. Okay? So, in a wider context, in a wider sense, no, literature would say on public administration, yung phenomenon na dinidiscuss natin, okay, is yung tinatawag po nating street level bureaucracy. What is that, sir? Okay? Yung street level bureaucracy is the idea that the people actually implements policy on the ground. They implement the policy on the ground. For example, kaming mga teachers ninyo, di ba? May policy regarding grades. Okay? So even if sinasabi ng batas na 73 is 73 and that's a failing grade, or 74 is 74 is a failing grade, it is still our judgment call to pass the student and give them a 75 in cases, no? In cases na, of course, may mga considerations kaming binibigay. Attendance, perhaps nag-fall short lang yung estudyante sa isa sa mga performance tasks niya or sa examination niya, but we can see that the student is actually making efforts in attending classes. That's gonna be our call, judgment call namin yun. So still, may politika pa din doon because we are exercising our decision-making capacity as teachers. Health workers, katulad ng examples natin kanina. We also have our police officers, di ba? Not every time the police officers are implementing the rules strictly. Kas pangarigan ko, mga dati nakita yung traffic enforcer or police officer during checkpoint. Kaya nalipatan ko rin nagpaisumat na helmet mo or vest mo. Not every time tikitan da ka. Pero most of the time, supposedly, they should be implementing the law to make it fair and square. Even social workers, okay? So, oftentimes, these people, teachers, health workers, police officers, and social workers, they often exercise more practical influence over what the policy is actually saying. Yan yung tinatawag nating street level bureaucracy. Okay? Second crack or second loophole in this dichotomy is that bureaucrats often shape policy through technical input. So even if may batas na ginawa ang Kongreso for that matter, for example, there is a law na ipinasa ng ating House of Representatives and Senate, hindi siya yung automatic na dapat word for word na susunod. This is where the department under the executive branch butt in, no? Kaya sila gumagawa ng implementing rules and regulation. The moment na nag-take effect ang isang batas, dito papasok yung pagbuo ng mga departments ng tinatawag nating TWG or Technical Working Group to draft now yung IRR ng batas. Yung IRR ay hindi separate na bagong batas. This is merely a document that would expound now and clarify how the decision of the Congress should be carried out, how the law should be implemented. Okay? Yun. So, kaya merong IRR because they can actually expand, narrow, redirect kung ano yung language ng law na naipasa. Okay? Right now, no, as I was actually browsing my TikTok kanina before I started this video recorded lecture, nakita ko na isa sa mga reason kung bakit hindi pa fully implemented yung early childhood care and development or yung ECCD law is because until now, several months have already passed, ay hindi pa nabubuo yung kanyang IRR. Okay? So, very important yan, no, na i-take note natin na nagkakaroon ng loophole sa politics administration dichotomy is because of this one. Nagkakaroon ng overlap. Okay? And yung panghuling loophole na gusto kong i-share sa inyo is that up until today, the Philippines remains to be um, a country na malakas pa rin yung padrino at palakasan system. And this is what public administration should consider to change, no, kaya kayo na mga next batch ng future civil servants and public administrators, you have to check on this one, di ba? Malakas pa rin yung patronage appointments, di ba? Nandoon pa rin yung bureaucratic inertia na sasabihin hindi naman ako nakialam sa HRMPSB, HRMPSB, hindi naman ako nakikialam sa mga appointments na yan. Pero ikaw bilang boss, nandoon pa rin yung influence mo. For example, I am your regional director and you are the head of the HR. O may nag-apply na pamangkin ko. Halangan i-neglect mo. Kahit sabihin ko hindi ako nakikialam dyan bilang regional director, ikaw na bilang HRMPSB, ikaw consider mo pa rin ako bilang boss mo. That's bureaucratic inertia. Meron pa rin influence kahit hindi direktang nakikialam. And of course, nandiyan din yung civil society advocacy that all pull administration back into its overtly political territory. Hindi mahihiwalay. Kaya nga sinasabi, di ba, minsan, kaplayak na da mga naaladan, di ba? Politika mo laray tao, backer ko. Those are the loopholes in politics administration dichotomy. So even if we're able to separate cleanly the definitions of politics and administrations, haan tayo isuda mapagsina in its actual practice, in its all essence. No? During the time Wilson wrote yung kanyang definition na the field of administration is a field of business noong 1887, panahon pa yun na professor siya, hindi pa siya pangulo. Okay? And if we try to put these three cracks together, Wilson's clean line starts looking less like a wall and more of like a permeable membrane. Kumbaga, nakaugat na kasi sa atin yan. And take note ha, konteksto pa lang to ng Amerika. 'Di ba? Pero kung titignan mo, applicable pa rin siya sa Pilipinas even up until today. Ano ba kasi yung era sa Pilipinas noong 1887? 'Di ba? Ito yung mga panahon sa Pilipinas na medyo patapos na yung era ng Spanish colonization kasi 'di ba 18 uh, uh, na pinatay si Rizal, nagkaroon ng pag-aalsa, 'di ba? So pero dito na-introduce na sa atin ang konsepto ng korupsyon, 'di ba? Ang konsepto ng pang-aabuso. So nandiyan na rin yung mga padrino system. Sinasabi nga before, 'di ba? Government positions are one of the vast commodities in the Philippines. Bakit? Nabibili ang pagiging kabeza di barangay. Hindi siya in practice dapat ibinoboto sila, tama? Or they are selected. Pero ang pagiging kabeza de barangay before ay kung sino yung malapit at malaki ang bigay sa mga gobernadorcillos at mga officials ng pamahalaan. Okay? So, let's have a quick case study here in order for you to better grasp what I am saying. So, let's have the barangay health worker scenario. Let's try to test your understanding. This is one of the most concrete yet most uncomfortable scenario, no? We have a barangay captain instructing a local or a barangay health worker, a BHW, okay? Si BHW ay direkta po siyang empleyado ng rural health unit. So, siya ay nagtatrabaho sa munisipyo, siya ay empleyado ng munisipyo, pero naitapon siya or nakabase siya sa barangay. Okay? So, ano ang mandato ni BHW na yon? To prioritize health programs that will benefit the benefit voters ahead of the upcoming election. So, ang sabi ni Barangay, haan mo ngay ikanday ta purok 5 ta naabak ta eleksyon. 'Di ba? That's a reality in the Philippines. Una di purok 4 ta iso ti kaadwan iti butante. Kunanat ta. Is that politics or administration? Well, if you are a BHW and you are actually working for your barangay captain, kasoro man ni kapitan, otherwise may katitrabaho, tama? So may politika na doon. At the same time, you are implementing your role as administrator. 'Di ba? So the instruction they received is unmistakably political. And your response, even if labag sa loob mo na unahin ang Purok 4 kahit na may mga nangangailangan sa Purok 5, that's already administration. Okay? So nagrigat kapag sinaan iti politics and administration even if we have already set the clear dichotomy. Okay. Another case tayo. Civil Service Commission naman tayo. Okay? Civil Service Commission is one of the um, constitutional commissions na inilagay sa ating 1987 Constitution. Okay? So, uh, the Philippines tried to institutionalize and protect what Woodrow Wilson has drawn, no? Kasi nga ginagawang business ang pamahalaan. So through the Civil Service Commission, okay, nabago ito supposedly. In theory, no, the purpose of the Civil Service Commission is to professionalize the bureaucracy. Okay? So dito naging merits based at dapat competence based. Pero anong nangyayari sa Pilipinas? 'Di ba? Kahit nakapasa ka ng civil service exam, kahit na magna cum laude ka pa, kahit na ikaw ay valedictorian sa batch mo, kung wala kang kakilala, talo ka. Talo ka ng may 77 na mayor na ninong, mga ganun. Okay? So, that's politics guised as administration, 'di ba? So may facade na binuo tungkol diyan. Okay? So supposedly magkakaroon tayo ng maikling debate sana dito if this is a live class, but nonetheless I would just like to tickle your intellectual capacities by having this kind of argument, no? So, in this mini debate supposedly, I want to genuinely wrestle with you sana. However, sige, let's just try to read the question. So, Woodrow Wilson argued that administration should be value-free and neutral. Posible ba ito sa Pilipinas? Is it possible that the Philippine public administration could achieve a value-free and neutral administration? Take note of this question na lang, baka ibigay ko na lang to as essay question during quizzes. So at least naisabi ko naman na sa inyo. Okay? So just to wrap up the third section of our discussion this morning, in this video recorded lecture, in one sentence, you try to distinguish now politics and administration as regarded from Woodrow Wilson. And do you think we can perfectly separate, no, or cleanly separate administration and politics here in the Philippines? Okay, all right. Okay, we move forward now to the fourth section. Okay, here in this slide, it says that not every government action counts as policy. Hindi lahat ng kilos ng pamahalaan ay tinatawag nating policy. And to that extent, hindi siya public policy. Okay? So, hindi lahat ng ordinansa, hindi lahat ng batas ay polisiya. Bakit? Bibigyan ko po kayo ng 8 characteristics that make one public. Okay? Let's begin with the first one. Okay. So, ulitin ko lang po, let me emphasize, not every government action counts as a policy. Even once it's a clear, or it clears the politics administration question, no? So let's begin with the first four muna. Okay, the first four should already feel familiar, and I think this is no longer new to you because you have already learned this during your first year to third year public administration. Okay, so number one is goal-oriented. Familiar? Does it ring a bell? Definitely. Kasi sabi ko nga sa inyo, laws should be purposive. Hindi yan public policy kapag wala siyang tinutugunang problema. Okay? So, katulad nung diniscuss natin during our online class. For peace, what is the purpose of Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program? That is poverty reduction. Okay? Pababain ang kahirapan at hindi para lang magpamudmud ng pera, para lang masabing may ginawa. Okay? So, again, laws should be goal-oriented. Whenever you try to analyze a policy, always look for the goal, look for the purpose. Para saan? Para kanino? Para kailan? Okay? Next, action and inaction. Okay. Again, na-discuss ko na naman tong action in inaction katulad nung nasa slide number 7 natin. Whenever the Congress enacts a law, it is counted as a law. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it is already a public policy per se. Okay? Authoritative, nabanggit na naman natin yan last time. It carries the force of the law. You have to take note that all laws must be in consonance now, must be adherent, and must be abiding. It should not be repugnant to the Constitution. So, once it is based on and religiously abiding to the Constitution, then it has the force of law, meaning non-compliance of such action may constitute legal action. So, authoritative siya. Okay? And the next one, it must be responsive. Policy reacts to a problem. Policy responds to a demand. And of course, policies, okay, interacts with pressure. For example, disaster response policy is one of the clearest example since it exists precisely because a crisis demand a government response, 'di ba? Alam naman natin, the Philippines is situated in the Pacific Ring of Fire and of course in the typhoon belt. So taon-taon, we are anticipating at least 20 typhoons a year and dozens or hundreds of earthquakes a year. So in order for us to actually mitigate the risk of the disasters, nagpasa tuloy ang Kongreso ng disaster response policy. Okay? Yan lang yung first part. So, again ha, in order for a policy to become public, it must be goal-oriented, action-based, authoritative, and responsive. Okay? We proceed with the last four. Okay, so the second four traits go further, and of course it deserves more attention. Yung una kasi medyo parang ano siya self-explanatory siya, and of course expected, kumbaga ito yung surface level. But if you are a full-blooded public administration student with particular or keen interest in public policy, then dito tayo sa last four magfo-focus. Okay? So, number one, policy should be interconnected. One policy ripples into others. Ibig sabihin yan, even if sinabi ko last time na there's no such thing as one policy fits all or one size fits all policy, kailangan meron din siyang matouch na other aspects. No? For example, yung susunod ko, i-discuss ko mamaya. Okay. We have dynamic as well. Policies evolve over time, and so as the needs of the people. Yung mga pangangailangan natin before COVID-19 ay nagbago na pagkatapos ng COVID-19 pandemic. So for example, before, strictly, wala pa yung konsepto masyado ng mga work from home or work from home sa government. But because of the pandemic, nagkaroon na ng parang reform at in-embrace na rin po ng Philippine bureaucracy itong mga work from home natin. Dati kung suspend lang, wala nang trabaho. But it already allowed for a more flexible working arrangement. Okay? And hopefully, bumalik na rin ang ISPSC sa 4-day work week kasi yung DIMSU, they have already announced they are reverting back to 4-day work week following the anticipated oil price hike na naman kasi nga medyo tumutuloy pa rin yung sigalot sa Middle East, no? So dynamic in the sense na nakakasabay siya sa demands and trends ng kasalukuyang panahon. Okay? And then, value laden, na-discuss na rin natin to last time. So policy reflects competing values. Magkakaiba ng perspective, so nagkakaroon ng conflict dito until sino ang mananalo? Of course, the majority. Okay? In its simplest form, pag sabing majority, ang general rule is simple majority, that is 50% plus 1 of the population. Pero we have to be very careful and read each provision kasi there are situations wherein a simple majority is based on the total number of members. There are also provisions of the law that would stipulate na the majority should be based on the total number of voting members or members present. Okay? So yan yung pinagtatalunan ngayon sa Kongreso. But that's not my focus for this time. Sa ibang lesson natin siya pag-uusapan. Okay? And lastly, it should have an impact. Every policy, okay, lalo na yung mga gagawin ninyo as your final output, must have an impact, must produce both intended and unintended outcomes. For example, okay, yung rice tariffication. Tariff means parang ano siya, taxes levied against imported products. Okay? So, yung rice tariffication, it was designed to lower consumer rice prices but also produce real documented effects on local farmers. Nung sinuspinde ng pamahalaan or binawasan ng Philippine government yung rice tariff natin, of course, bumaba yung presyo ng imported na bigas. And because of that, mas tinangkilik ito ng mga tao. Sino ang nasakripisyo? Yung mga local farmers natin. Kasi nga, ang mura na nga ng bili ng palay at bigas ng mga middleman, papatungan pala nito, ang ending, mas mahal na yung Philippine produced na rice kaysa doon sa imported na bigas. So, medyo nagkaroon ng negative consequence doon sa part na yon. Okay? So, katulad na sinabi ko, one policy must ripple into others. This is the interconnected nature of a policy. Okay? So for example, okay, mag-focus tayo sa sa tobacco products. Okay, since this is one of the major produce dito sa Ilocos region, no? Lalo na nagkaroon ng monopolyo ng tobacco during the Spanish colonization era. Okay. So, sinasabi ko dito na interconnected ang mga policy because one policy should ripple into others. Okay? Yung interconnectedness niya must have a chain. Okay? So, for example, a syntax, yung buwis na ipinapataw sa mga produkto na in literal sense pwedeng maka-harm sa health natin. So, of course, tobacco, because of its nicotine, tama? It may actually pose health threats or risks, no? So, a sin tax on tobacco is, on its face, a health policy. Kaya nagpapataw ng mas mataas na buwis or sin tax sa tobacco para, alam niyo yun, mag-increase yung price legally pa rin na ma-regulate yung consumption ng tabako. So, in this regard, nadi-discourage supposedly yung mga consumers na manigarilyo. But the same tax raises government revenue. So, win-win siya sa pamahalaan. Tumaas yung kita ng pamahalaan dahil nga sa buwis na ipinataw, at the same time, bumababa ang konsumo ng sigarilyo. So, it's like hitting two birds with one stone. Okay? And, para makumpleto yung chain natin, yung in-increase nakita ng gobyerno, yung increased revenue from the levied sin taxes can now fund the PhilHealth premium subsidies for indigent Filipinos. So, yung isang polisiya ay nakagawa ng tatlong mabubuting epekto sa ating pamahalaan at sa ating bayan. So, tumaas yung sin tax para bumaba yung konsumo ng sigarilyo, tumaas yung kita ng pamahalaan, at nakatulong ito para bigyan ng subsidiya yung mga mahihirap nating mga kababayan para maka-access sila ng healthcare programs natin sa pamamagitan ng PhilHealth. Okay? So, in your case, I want you to think of one policy na merong interconnected effect or ripple effect. Okay? Again, I might give this as one of your essay questions later on. So at least by now, you can already think of policies like this. Okay? Let's focus on the next one. Okay. Mas intindihin natin yung value laden kasi dito nagkakaroon ng malalang debate ang mga kongresista natin and kahit tayo mga ordinaryong mamamayan, di ba? Whenever we listen to the deliberations of the Congress, whenever they debate on the plenary, sometimes we also carefree to join. Nakikidebate na rin tayo. And minsan lumalabas yung tanong ng is it for efficiency or equity? And sometimes kahit na yung difference ng equality, equity, and justice ay napag-uusapan. Okay? So in this slide, let's try to unpack the value-laden trait or nature of policy through the tension that sometimes arise, no, or sorry, not just sometimes but often arise in real political or Philippine political debates and even policy debates, no, yung efficiency versus equity. When you say efficiency class, okay, it means getting the most output from the least cost. Kumbaga, we are trying to maximize the result without actually spending more. Okay? For example, yung target benefits natin ay para sa mga poorest households lang. Doon mo makikita that the government is trying to be efficient by targeting its beneficiaries. Pag may ayuda, hindi pwedeng buong Pilipinas kasi nga, of course, common sense would dictate na uh, there are others that are capacitated naman. So, ang uunahin natin, ang ita-target natin ay yung mga walang-wala talaga. Okay? So, that is for efficiency. However, ang kalaban naman yan is equity. If punta natin sa konteksto ng pandemic, sabi dati, okay, uunahin natin yung pinakamahirap because they are the greatest hits of the pandemic. But we can see the effect of the pandemic does not only target the mahihirap, 'di ba? Lahat tayo ay nakaranas ng epekto ng pandemya at walang excuse doon. Mayaman, mahirap, bata, matanda, lahat ay labis na naapektuhan. So dito papasok yung principle of equity. Kasi kahit yung mga medyo may kaya before, hindi makalapas. Nawala sila ng stock. Sarado ang mga groceries. Awan paggatangan na. So therefore, they are also expecting to receive an ayuda. And an ayuda before, hindi pera ha, relief goods before. 'Di ba? And if you are the government, 'di ba? Hamo bali nga labsan day balay just because nagpintas ti balay na. Kasi namnamaan damat nga oray isuda maikan kaputa awan mo pagkatangan ta nakasara amin and at the same time tumigil din ang trabaho. Kaya di mga middle classes. So ang tawag po diyan ay equity. Ang equity naman po ay fairness in distribution. So this is where yung mga title ng batas natin na universal access to healthcare, universal access to free and quality tertiary education, fairness yan. So, walang maiiwan, walang hindi mabibigyan, kahit na ang cost nito ay mas mataas as compared to efficiency. Okay? Yan ang laging tanong in terms of ayuda. For example na naman, para mas maging malinaw. Okay, may bagyo. Okay. Ito na lang, i-share ko na lang yung experience namin. Okay? Bagyo actually we will be commemorating the first year anniversary of the onslaught of I'm not sure if it was super typhoon but I remember the name Emong. Okay? Kami sa San Fernando City, La Union, ang isa sa mga greatest hit. Actually, ang talagang pinakabiktima ng emong noong July 25, 2025 ay ang province of La Union, particularly the municipalities of Aringay, Agoo, and Bacnotan, La Union, including the city of San Fernando. Okay. During that time, the barangay is already enlisting yung mga residente na mabibigyan ng ayuda. Of course, umalma kami kasi our household is one of those that are not included is not included in the list. They are citing nga maestro kamat kunada kanya. Unaon adi marigrigat kunana. Well, I understand the fact nga kasi iti kunaanda pero if you try to look at in adverse eye view perspective, lahat kami nasa lanta. Halos sarado ang palengke, ang mga groceries at that time. 'Di ba? Wala ring kuryentehan kami maka-withdraw. So anya nga tinamnamaan da nga pangalaan mi ti kanen mi. So in those times of crisis, efficiency is outweighed by equity. Okay? Kasi nga, tignan niyo yung situation, 'di ba? Lahat tayo pantay-pantay during that crisis, 'di ba? Ano? Okay. So I think we are now down to the second to the last part of my discussion, and this is actually the entry now or the entrance now to policy science. Okay? When public policy has its own field of study. Again, when we say science, ito ay may kinalaman sa pag-aaral using formal and scientific method in order for us to understand a certain phenomenon. Okay? So public policy is not just an inter and multidisciplinary perspective. It is also a standalone discipline because it has already its own field of study, and that is policy science. Okay, so in the entry of policy science, okay, public policy is now considered a subject, a standalone independent subject that has its own dedicated field of study built specifically to understand and improve how policy gets made. Okay? So, in 1951, so medyo malayo na to, no? Manipod na dyan 1887 ni Harold Laswell. Okay? Ano ba ang kanyang sinabi? Uh, for the information, Harold Laswell is actually a political scientist, no? So he is actually a professor as well of political science, and sa kanya nang galing yung infamous na definition ng politics na who gets what, when, and how. Okay? Now, the language is very dense. No? Sabi ni Harold Laswell, the policy sciences are concerned with knowledge of and indecision processes of the public and civic order. Okay, so these are big words again to understand. So let's try now to discuss the definition. The policy sciences concerned with knowledge of and indecision process of the public and civic order. Ano naman ang ibig sabihin niya dito? Okay? So policy science studies how decisions get made. Yung mga politiko, they are value laden because there are competing interests that they have to consider. 'Di ba? During the time na ipinapasa ang RH bill, 'di ba? Ang lakas-lakas ng opposition. Bakit? Dahil because we are a Christian dominated country, and Christians at that time are very much conservative. Halos nahihiya pa silang sabihin ang condom, ang contraceptives, ang pill, because at that time malakas yung Christianity. Again, policy science studies how decisions get made. And they use this knowledge to help make decisions become better. 'Di ba? So may research dito. Kaya I am stating now outright na your final output must be a research-based policy proposal. Okay? Alright. So, ano ba yung cycle? Kasi we are talking about science and definitely science involves process and process has a cycle. So, ano ba yung sinasabi dito? Okay. So, before I will discuss muna, sorry, let me go back to the previous slide. May naalala lang ako. Okay. Yung sinasabi ni Laswell na policy science, okay, there is a duality of character doon sa how decisions get made and they use the knowledge to make it better. Okay? Simultaneously, we have to look at it as descriptive in nature, meaning it studies what actually happens and put it into action through application. So this is an applied policy science, meaning it also asks what should happen. So hindi lang tinatanong kung ano yung nangyari, okay? Tinatanong din niya kung ano dapat yung nangyari. Kasi whenever we pass a policy, whenever we implement a policy, may dalawang senaryo yan. Nangyari yung inaasahan, may ibang nangyari. So ang tanong, ano yung nangyari at ano dapat yung nangyari in order for us to come up with a better decision. So that duality of character is precisely what separates now policy science from political theory. Okay? Si theory kasi, sinasabi lang niya, ano dapat? Kasi nga, that is a theory. Hana may magbaga, anya itinapasama kasi wala naman siya sa actual execution. Okay? All right. So we proceed now with the sixth cycle of policy science. Again, policy science hindi lamang siya nangyayari sa isang upuan. Okay? It involves six undifferentiated activity. Okay? And I want you to see them as a cycle rather than a list. Although dito sa aking model hindi siya cycle, okay? Nung na-cycle gamin, paikot siya. Okay? Paikot siya. Okay? So, it starts from policy analysis to policy formulation. Okay? So, policy implementation and policy evaluation, it tests now the decision in the real world once the policy has already been made. There are also comparative studies and policy advocacy. Okay? So, mag-uumpisa sa policy analysis. Okay? What is the gap? Ano yung gap? Ano yung problema? Okay? Ngayon na may problema ka na, mag-propose ka na ng solution. So that is your policy formulation. Once it has already been formulated, you have to implement it. Hindi siya natatapos sa implementation. Dapat may evaluation din. May monitoring and evaluation. Anya tinapasamak? Who benefited? Ano yung benefits? Meron bang benefit? And if so, you proceed with comparative study. Yung na-implement ba na policy sa Tagudin, did it yield the same result nung inimplement siya sa Santa Maria, sa Santa Cruz, sa Candon? Okay? Or for example, yung policy ba ng 4Ps, pareho ba siya ng result sa Ilocos Sur as against sa La Union? You do comparative studies. And after that, you advocate from that policy. Once na okay na siya, balik ka na naman sa policy analysis. Kasi nga, ours is a dynamic uh, demand. Nagbabago ang demand. Baka mamaya, o for example, ito yung excited kaming mga government employee. It has been 10 years since nagkaroon ng pera ang gobyerno, ang mga government employee. What is pera? Okay. Yung pera is yung tinatawag naming personal economic allowance. Okay? Pera yan. Okay? Yung pera is I think parang nasa 2009 siya. So kung 2009 siya, ilang taon na siya? 2019. So 10 years plus 7. Oh, halos dalawang dekada na yung pera. Yung konteksto nung 2009, yung pera na 2,000 ay malaki na para sa isang government employee. Pero ngayon, yung 2,000, gano'n siya kalaki. Hampay nga makapuno iti basketon. 'Di ba? So, ako, when I heard the news na may proposal sa Kongreso na taasan ang pera from 2,000 to 5,000, of course, may bias ako dun because I am a government employee. Therefore, gusto ko ring taasan yung bonus namin. So from 2,000 to 5,000, sino may ayaw doon, 'di ba? Lahat tayo gusto 'yun. So we will advocate from that policy. Parang ganun 'yon. Okay? So, in order for us to better grasp what policy science is, intindihin natin siya sa perspective na even if it is a stand-alone discipline, kailangan din niya ng interdisciplinary perspective. Kaya may mga subfields din po ang policy science. Ayan. So, I will just leave it as a your reading activity here kasi gusto ko na mas maintindihan ninyo through reading. Okay. What are the 5 defining traits of policy science? Okay? So, multidisciplinary siya katulad ng sinabi ko kanina. Hindi lang siya nakafocus sa iisang subject. Okay? Yan. It draws from political science, economics, sociology, and law simultaneously. Okay? Of course, excuse me. Of course, it is problem-oriented. Okay? They focus now on real specific problems rather than abstract puzzles for their own sake. It is normative, meaning it asks what policy should be, not merely what they currently are. Okay? It is contextual in the sense that they are still sensitive to history, culture, and local politics, rather than feeling one size fits all perspective. Okay? Ang mga batas natin, hindi siya templated. Dapat nakabase rin siya sa pangangailangan. I-contextualize mo. Iba ang pangangailangan ng mga taga-coastal area sa pangangailangan ng mga farmers at ng mga taga-bundok. Okay? Yan. Alright? So, Section 6 na tayo. Sige, isagad ko na para matapos ko na tong lesson material na to. Okay? Policy science remains to be a young field. Bata pa to. Ibig sabihin, marami pang changes, marami pang unknown, marami pang undiscovered. Okay? So, kailan ba nagsimula ang policy science? Yung policy science as a stand-alone discipline was just actually coined sometime in 1950, where classical political economy and public administration are still brewing. And then, nag-grow siya noong 1950s to 60s. Dito na ipinanganak yung policy science na ikinoin ni Harold Laswell. Okay? And then nagtuloy-tuloy yung growth ng political science, ay ng policy science ng 1970s. Okay? And then nagkaroon na rin ng mga pag-aaral sa implementation ng 1980s. Okay? And then from early 20th century, dito na nagkaroon ng evidence-based policy, kaya kailangan ng research kapag kayo ay nagkakandak ng policy proposal. And then here comes behavioral insights to digital policy now. Kaya nga one of my policy brief is handa na ba ang mga LGUs na yakapin ang AI at okay lang ba? Is it ethical for policymakers to craft policies that are AI generated? Okay? So, to summarize the timeline of policy science, noong 1950s, classical pa ito. Noong 1950s to 60s, doon na ipinanganak yung policy science sa pamamagitan ni Laswell. And then, naging analytical ito. And then, nagkaroon ng implementation, evidence-based, and behavioral sciences. Okay? So, what are the subfields or the field built on other fields? Ito po yun. So, ang policy science ay independent siya pero ito ay anchored pa rin sa iba't ibang mga subfields like political science, public administration, economics, sociology, law, psychology, and development studies. Kaya hindi tayo pwede mag-concentrate lang na PA kayo, batas-batas, hindi ganun. Okay? Alright. Last portions na tayo, sana. Kasi ang haba pala ng discussion ko. Okay, so now that the theory finally gets space, how did it all or how did all these play out in the Philippines? Okay, so mag-timeline ulit tayo. Manipod 1900s to 1946, ito yung kasagsagan ng American colonial period. So the Americans introduced formal public administration training and bureaucratic systems to the Philippines. Ito yung mga panahon kung saan very young pa yung Philippine policy thinking, and it was heavily shaped by American models. Kung mapapapansin ninyo, halos marami sa mga batas natin ay mga Americanized policies. Okay? Yan. So these are actually because we follow the traditions of Woodrow Wilson and Frank Goodnow. Okay? So noong 1935, nagkaroon ng polisiya na sasailalim ang Pilipinas sa American rule, yung Commonwealth na tinatawag sa loob ng 10 taon, and after that, hihiwalay na ang Pilipinas bilang independent state under the regime of the Americans. Okay? Until yun nga, natapos na ang Commonwealth, and then nagkaroon tayo ng post-independence era na establish ang 1935 Constitution kung saan ito ay base sa Amerika. Okay? Ang focus ng 1935 Constitution at ng mga batas na yung mga Commonwealth Act at mga acts noong panahon ng mga Amerikano ay nakafocus sa rice self-sufficiency. Kasi nga, we are an agricultural country. And then umabot pa sa time na tayo ay top exporters of rice. Ngayon tayo na ang nag-i-import ng bigas. Sad to say. Of course, na-formalize din ang basic education sa panahon ng mga Amerikano through yung pagtatayo ng mga public schools, and nagkaroon din po ng rural development. Okay? So these are the foundational period ng policy sa Pilipinas. Okay? And then, nagkaroon din tayo ng centralization, and then biglang naging decentralized. Okay? Sa ilalim ng bagong lipunan ng dating Pangulong Marcos during the time of martial law, highly centralized ang Pilipinas. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng utos dapat manggaling sa palasyo. Okay? Pero during that time, intindihin natin na naging labis-labis at sukdulan yung authoritarian rule at cronyism. When you say cronyism, ang malakas yung padrino system, palakasan din dito. Okay, ibig sabihin yung mga cronies, yung mga kakampi, kaalyado ng administrasyon. Does not necessarily mean na kapamilya. Basta kayo ay magkaalyadong mga parties. Yan, cronies ang tawag dyan. Okay? So, decisions were made far less independent scrutiny than a healthy policy process. So, concentrated ang power sa kanila. Noon yung panunot dan, isulatan. Okay? Not until 1986 when the EDSA People Power Revolution occurred, natanggal ang rehimeng Marcos, okay? And na-establish ang 1987 Constitution, which restored and reinstituted the democratic governance. And then in 1991, naipasa ang Local Government Code, which decentralized the Philippines. Ibig sabihin, hindi na heavily centralized ang Pilipinas, may mga autonomy na po ang mga LGUs po natin. Okay? So if we try to compare, sorry, hindi ko na-move yung aking PowerPoint. Okay? So today, Philippine Policy Science is shaped by NEDA's development planning. By the way, wala na pong NEDA kasi naging DepDep na po siya. Okay? Yan. And then, the 5 eras of the Philippines, this is just a summary. Okay? key Philippine institutions. These are just examples. NEDA or DepDev for development planning. Kaya meron tayong 2040 agenda, yung ano na yun, maginhawa, matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay. Ayan, tapos yung PIDS, Policy Research and Analysis to, Education Policy for CHED and DepEd as well, LGUs and CSUs. Okay? So, in order for us to better grasp our discussions, please adhere to this instruction. Build a complete concept map, okay, about the world of public policy. Okay? So, yun lang naman ang aking i-discuss for now. So, that ends now my discussion for PA 116 Lesson 2. On our next lesson, I will talk about the policy environment and policy cycle. So, please find time to watch this video recorded lecture. Ang kagandahan nito kasi anytime pwede niyong balikan. Okay? Para hindi sayang yung oras natin, and it would help in your review as well. If you have questions or clarifications with of any part of this lesson, feel free to message me in our group chat so that we could interact. Okay? So I will be uploading this together with the lesson 3 for your advanced reading. So again, maraming salamat for your time and see you in our class. Goodbye for now.